So what is going on, guys? NanoBit73 here with another video, and I've been working on this one for a little while now because, as you guys know, if you guys have been following me, my channel is mostly focused, about 90-95% of its content is all based around the iPad Pro and how you can use it as your lone computing device, get away with it, and also be more productive than you would be with a regular computer. So I've been using this iPad for a little under a year. I'm about 11 months in with this exact model. I've used iPad Pros in the past and iPads in the past, obviously, but this is, in terms of having it as my only laptop, as my only computing device, I've been in this situation for about 11 months now. And what I wanted to do was share with you guys all the things that I use, both from a physical standpoint and a software standpoint, to make sure that I'm getting the most productivity out of my iPad Pro, and also show you guys what the iPad Pro can do better than a laptop would in any case, right? So that's what I'm gonna walk you guys through, so stay tuned. I'm really excited to show you guys what I found out here, and let's get the video going. Obviously, before we get started, guys, I gotta tell you exactly what iPad Pro that I'm using. So I'm using the 2018 Wi-Fi only 256 gigabyte 12.9 inch iPad Pro. I got it on sale, yep, like I said, about 11 months ago during Amazon Prime Day last year, and I got it for about $950 when it retailed for about $1,200, right? So that's when I pulled the trigger on it, because I knew that this is what I wanted, and I saw so many videos on the iPad Pro and how futuristic it looked, so had to jump on it, and ever since then, guys, I've been in love with this device. So again, just to set the stage a little bit better, I'm rocking the iPad Pro with iPadOS 13.6 beta, right? So the only thing that I recommend you do is be on 13.4 and higher for this to really begin to encompass everything that you want it to encompass, because that was the cursor update, which allowed you to use mouse and trackpad support for your iPad Pro and use it intuitively, and honestly, in my opinion, better than you would with a classic point and click mouse and that normal cursor that you see on Windows and Mac OS. So now we have the actual iPad itself and it's set up, you have the right software, right? We got to get a couple products surrounding it, right? And these things are going to depend on how you're going to use it. So are you going to be a mobile first person, or are you going to use the iPad Pro as a desk setup, right? So I'm on the mobile first situation, right? So I like everything to be compact, be as easy to move around as possible, but then I also have a setup at home which gives you, that more desktop-like feel situation, right? So in terms of what you need from a mobile standpoint, you would need some sort of keyboard, whether it is a Slim Folio keyboard or the new Magic keyboard. Get yourself a keyboard to be able to type on a physical keyboard as opposed to the on-screen keyboard, because that takes up about 2/3 of the screen and you're kind of losing out on all the real estate on the iPad. So get yourself a keyboard. I have the Magic keyboard that came out a few months ago. I absolutely love it because, in my opinion, it is the best trackpad built into a keyboard that you can use with the iPad Pro. And then the other best trackpad that you can use also comes from Apple, as the separate Magic trackpad that they sell. Because other than that, there is nothing on the market that works as well as this trackpad does for the iPad Pro. So if you're a trackpad person and you need a trackpad, especially if you're going on the full mobile, you have to get the Magic keyboard. I've seen reviews on the Bridge Pro Plus, and it's and it's not nearly as good as it was supposed to be, because it might be Apple's fault or whatever the case may be, but obviously it's not working, and spending $230 on something that doesn't work rather than $350 on something that does work extremely well, go with the bigger investment and it'll last you a longer time, guys. So that's what I have from a mobile setup. So it's a Magic keyboard that comes with the trackpad built in. I do have an Apple Pencil too, and then I also put a Paperlike screen protector, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. I want to be able to take advantage of the fact that, yes, I'm using the iPad as my only computing device, but it's also a tablet, guys. It was a tablet first before it became an actual laptop replacement. So being able to take notes on the go and having another way to input and interact with the device, giving it a fourth way to interact with the device, is an awesome thing to have. So definitely recommend the Apple Pencil, and if you are going with the Apple Pencil, get yourself a Paperlike screen protector, because there's nothing on the market other than that. It gives you the good resistance that you would get when writing on a real piece of paper. The glare is a lot more minimal than you would see on third-party Paperlike screen protectors on Amazon, so give it a check out, guys, and also everything that I'm talking about will be linked in the description below. Okay, so now that you have your keyboard, your mouse, your trackpad, whatever you're using, you're gonna need some sort of hub, right? As you guys may know, the iPad Pro was the first iPad to bring USB-C support, right? And that was all amazing, fine and dandy, but then at the same time, we're stuck with one USB-C port, right? And yes, the Magic Keyboard added a secondary USB-C port for purely power purposes. And in my opinion, yeah, it's nice to have there, but I want to have a hub that can do it all, right? Yes, I want it to be able to charge, but then I want it to be able to transfer data. I want it to be able to put up a secondary monitor. I want to be able to input SD cards in there. So having a hub is going to be very, very vital, especially if you're somebody that has a lot of stuff going on and a lot of, USB drives and external hard drives. and SD cards and things like that that you're going to want to use with your iPad Pro, especially if you're going to optimize your experience and use your iPad Pro as your ultimate work machine. So I have the Andobil 9-in-1. My only complaint with it is that it doesn't have a headphone jack. So if I do want to use headphones, it has to be purely wireless, which is no big deal, but sometimes I do like to plug in. But other than that, this USB-C hub has been amazing. It doesn't overheat. It's very, very reliable. The cord that extends from it is very, very sturdy, so highly recommend it. It's really good. There's an abundance of USB-C hubs made for the iPad Pro now at this point, so do your research, get one that's highly rated. Don't go super cheap with it because eventually it will overheat and it will break and it'll only last you a couple weeks, maybe a month. So make the investment, spend 50 to 80 bucks on one that'll last you a while, and they can use with other products that have USB-C hubs or USB-C ports as well. And then the next thing you're going to need, especially if you're going with a lower base model of the iPad Pro, you might need some external storage, right? And I recommend going with a USB-C hub or a USB-C storage device so you can transfer data a lot faster and so you can plug it in directly into the iPad instead of a hub, right? So I use a RAV-Power 500GB SSD. Transfer speeds are very, very good. So being able to move files that are totally complete that I don't need on the iPad Pro anymore and offloading it onto the hard drive to make sure that the hard drive on my actual iPad Pro is minimally used. That's why I have a hard drive that I keep with me at all times, guys. So get your hands on some sort of hard drive. Like I said, I have the RAV-Power one, but there's much more. I know Samsung makes some great ones. Anker makes a couple good ones. So definitely take a look at other external storage devices for your iPad Pro to really complete that mobile setup, guys. So from a hardware standpoint, that's really all you're going to need on the mobile side, right? You're going to need the keyboard, the mouse, the pencil if you're going to be using it for drawing or taking notes. You know, the screen protector. I also have a D-brand skin on the back, which I'll show you guys, but that's more for aesthetics and to reduce scratching on the actual device. And then I have the external hard drive, the USB-C hub, and that's pretty much all you need, guys. Also get yourself a nice fast charger. So I have another RAV-Power 90-watt charger because the charger that comes in the box, even though it is an 18-watt charger, the iPad Pro can take in more power than that at one time. So get yourself one that's at least 30 or above, and then you'll be charging at an optimal pace, especially when you're working with high-intensity things. Okay, and then the next portion of this video has to do with the actual software that I use on the iPad Pro to make sure that I'm, being as efficient as possible with my iPad and getting the job that I need to get done on the iPad Pro, right? Because for most tasks, especially if you're comparing it to a Windows machine or a Mac OS machine, you can get from point A to point B, right? When you're trying to get something done, regardless of what the task is. It's just a matter of how you're going to get that task done. That's going to be different, right? Maybe with Mac OS, it was a straight line that you knew and you recognized and you understood at that point because you've been using it for years. But now with the iPad, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, guys, when it comes to getting stuff done, especially when it's very specific and very niche aspects and different things that you need to do, right? So some of the things that I started off plain and simple, I did a whole video on this, just to give me a different feel when I open up the iPad, is I cleared out the home screen of the iPad, which I'll show you guys. And all I have is what's on my dock. I have my widget screen that's never changed, and the rest of the actual screen on the first screen of the iPad is empty. Why I did that is because it gives me a better feel. It makes me feel like I'm going to an actual home screen of a computer where there's nothing on the actual screen, just a nice wallpaper that I really, really enjoy. And then if you swipe to the right, that's where all my applications are, right? But then on the bottom are obviously on the dock are my most used applications, right? Anything ranging from leisure tasks to work productivity tasks, and then also put folders down there because I did notice that in order to multitask, you have to have the app in the dock. And if you have folders in the dock, then it'll work, right? But if the app isn't inside the dock, then you have to pull Spotlight down. It's a whole thing. So I'd rather just have it easy access on the dock. Those are my main working applications, right? So I have, if you go across the bottom, obviously I have the mainstays like the calendar and things like that and photos, but then I also have LumaFusion, which is my editing app of choice for the iPad because everything I do on this channel is with an iPhone to record and an iPad to edit, right? So that's LumaFusion, and I love LumaFusion. I've been an advocate for them for a while. iMovie is great to get started, but LumaFusion is just, it gets you about 90% of the way there than you would get to Final Cut Pro, in my opinion. And for me, it's done more than enough, right? I haven't even scratched the surface of what LumaFusion can do. So that's what the first thing I did, right, was clean up the home screen, make sure that it looked good, make sure it looked clean, make sure that I enjoyed opening up the actual iPad itself and looking at the screen and be like, all right, now I'm ready to go. So that's the first thing I did when it comes from a software standpoint. Another thing that you have to get used to is the new file system, right? The file system used to be very clunky, very messy, very disorganized, and it's gotten a lot better. It's still not going to feel exactly like how it would feel using the Mac OS Finder or whatever the Windows Finder is called. It's still a little bit different, but the concept, the idea is the same, right? It's all in layers. You can go into folders, subfolders. The only thing that I want Apple to do with iPadOS 14 is give me a status bar for when I'm transferring data. As you know, when you go into a Mac OS system and you transfer files between a hard drive, an external hard drive, in the system that you're importing it to, it'll tell you estimated time remaining, how many gigabytes or megabytes are left, and how fast it's going. On the iPad, all you get is a little circle, as if you're kind of installing an app on your iPhone, and then once that circle is complete, then you know it's done. But you don't know how long it's going to take, you don't know how big the file is, you don't know how far along it's gone through that file from both a time and data perspective. So that's the one thing I definitely want them to add. And then for me, the Files app would be amazing. But other than that, use the file system to your advantage, right? You can log into all your cloud storage devices, whether it's Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, G Drive, anything that exists out there. You can natively sign in and then use it through the Files app, and it won't be downloaded onto your iPad. It'll still be in the cloud, but you can pull it down whenever you want straight from the Files app. And then another thing that you guys really need to take advantage of is Safari. So I slept on Safari for the first few months of using my iPad Pro, especially when iPad OS 13 came out. I was a very big Chrome user, very Chrome heavy because I used it across all my devices, especially when I had a laptop. All my plugins were there, my passwords were saved, and whenever I would sign in, no matter where I was, everything would be there. So I was very hesitant to leave Chrome. And then I slowly started to move to Safari, because Safari on the iPad Pro is a desktop class web browser. So what that means is that whatever you see on your Mac computer is what will be pulled up on your actual iPad. And that's been the best workaround that I've found, especially with very corporate and professional applications. I would rather use the web portal version, especially for things like Microsoft Office, for the whole G Suite and things like that. It's just a lot easier to use it through the Safari. It's a lot more advanced within the web portal. It's not a watered down application like it is when you use the actual application on the iPad Pro itself. So use Safari and the Files app to your advantage, guys. And then the last thing I do want to touch on is the app called Shift Screen that I've mentioned to you guys before. I'll link it below. It's just a great way to use a secondary monitor with the iPad Pro, because right now, sadly, when you plug in a secondary monitor to the iPad Pro, you get black bars, right? Because the aspect ratio isn't what it's supposed to be, right? Maybe if you got a 16:9, aspect ratio monitor, which I don't think has existed since like the 1990s, right? But other than that, you're gonna get black bars, and it's just ugly, and it's not fun to look at, and all it does is mirror your display, so it's not like you're getting more screen real estate to be productive. So in comes Shift Screen, and although Shift Screen is pretty limited in its functionality, I love it because it lets me extend all the websites that I use throughout the entire screen that I have, and then also it's built-in web apps, right? So what I was talking about that you can use through Safari, you can now use through Shift Screen as well, and be able to use those applications through Shift Screen while having a secondary monitor up and doing something else on the iPad, guys. So that's something that I recommend you guys try out. But that's my 2 cents on the iPad Pro, guys, and how I've kind of transformed it into my daily driver, into my lone computing device. So my next video idea is to show you guys the desk setup and how you can use your iPad Pro as a plug-and-play device, whereas you can pick it up, take it with you whenever you need to, but then when you're ready to get some work done at your desk, you put it down, plug it in, and then you're ready to go, and you're good to go to work, guys. But this is how I pretty much transformed my iPad into my laptop, into my daily driver, and I've been loving it. And people forget that it's just a lot more fun to use the iPad, guys. It's like, I don't have this much fun using a traditional laptop. Sure, using a laptop every now and then is nice, but now with the Magic Keyboard, with the cursor support, Apple Pencil, the fact that it's still a tablet first, right? The iPad was made as a tablet first, so all that functionality is still there. And now with iPadOS consistently evolving to make our lives that much better and make this iPad Pro deserve that Pro moniker and that Pro name, I'm just excited to see what the future holds, guys. So hopefully this helped you guys out with some tips and tricks on how to turn your iPad Pro into your only computing device. Just make sure that the applications you need are usable on the iPad Pro before taking the full plunge, guys. But that's going to do for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I had a fun time making this one, and I'm going to make more of these because I use my iPad Pro as my lone device, and I'm going to continue to do that for the time being because it's just going to keep getting better, guys. But that's going to do for this video. Like I said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Everything I mentioned is going to be linked down below. And until next time, guys, peace.